So I go into the prison, I go into the cell, I get on my knees, and I just start weeping. And then it all became a reality. I saw my whole life flash before me, how I stole from my mom, how I treated people, the drugs, how I've ruined my life. And I just cried out for God. And the craziest things happened. I know, many people are watching this right now, is that Jesus came and he walked into my prison cell. So Jesus came like light, and he came into my prison cell. And when I looked at him, it was like I just became undone. And I became so aware, not only of, at one moment I was so aware of my sin, but then at the next moment I became so aware of his glory. And I said this to Jesus. I said, Jesus, many people say they can't see you and they can't hear you, but I'm going to serve you. But I'm asking you this one thing. I want to see you for the rest of my life, and I want to hear your voice for the rest of my life.
Could you introduce yourself and tell us about your testimony?
Sure. My name is Malik Edwards. I'm 40 years old. I've been walking with the Lord now for, I want to say, 20 years. So it's been exciting. Well, actually, like 22 years now. And part of my testimony of my salvation experience is, well, number one, I was born addicted to drugs. So my mother, she used drugs. She used heroin most of the pregnancy. And so basically, I wasn't supposed to make it. They did several operations when I was born, and then they eventually took me away from my mom. So they took me away from her. I was living in New Jersey at the time, and so a couple that were looking to have kids, they basically adopted me and my brother. So my brother is an amazing guy, but my family is just going through so much, and my mom's a drug addict, so they gave me up, and now introduced to this new family. I got adopted when I was about 3 years old, and so I went just a little bit through foster care. My brother was like a half brother. We had the same mom, different dad, and he, how can I say it? He went through the foster care system. So when they adopted him, he's about 5 years older than me. So he must have been, I don't know, maybe about 8 years old at the time. So we grew up together, and my parents immediately told me about God. I went to like a 7-day Adventist school, and it was a really cool experience, but I really didn't know God. And so at a young age, I started having encounters with God. Like I would have encounters with God. I would have encounters with devils, angels, and demons. And I would have these nights where something would pull me under my bed, and just crazy things was going on. And there was really no language in my house to tell me what was going on. My mom was a Lutheran, dedicated Lutheran, and my dad, he just was. I don't think he really believed in God at that moment.
And even with those experiences, with being pulled, was that in the physical where you dream?
No. It was I would maybe be in this dreaming state, but then I actually end up waking up out of it and being underneath my bed, or seeing different spirits and stuff like that, entering my room. I had a hard time sleeping a lot of times because of a lot of dreams. I dreamed a lot, and when you grow up in a house that maybe doesn't believe in the supernatural like that, you kind of don't know what to do with it. So that was kind of my experience. And so my mom was really into astrology and numerology and all these kind of things. So I grew up with a lot of that also in the atmosphere. So you could just imagine how oppressive my atmosphere was a lot of the time. So basically about the time I would say about 8 or 9, my brother, so it's crazy. So my family lived maybe 8 minutes away from where we lived. My brother knew that where my family lived because he saw my mom put the needles in her arm. He saw her, overdose. And so he was going back and forth just to see if she was okay. He didn't want to go back and live in that atmosphere, but he was just going back. And so my adoptive family decided that they should terminate the adoption. So they terminated his adoption, means no more, he's not their son anymore. And that really broke me, hurt me. They explained to me what was happening, but in an 8-year-old, 9-year-old mind, it's very traumatic. And so I think from that was the turning point. My brother was my protector in a sense. And so I think from that point I ended up just getting a little bit more curious, rebelling a little bit more. So I would say about the age of 11 and 12, I started to get introduced to pornography, started to get introduced to the world, basically. I started getting bullied in school, in 5th, 6th grade. I was just peculiar. I was different, and a lot of the kids didn't like that. And you know how kids are. They could be cruel. And so I turned to, by the time I was 13, 14, I started smoking weed. So So I started smoking weed, getting introduced to, acid, LSD, hallucinogenic, stuff like that. And, it's kind of interesting because, when God has a call on your life, the enemy tries to come in right away to do the opposite, right? And so here I am at a young age having these dreams, being able to see in the spirit, and now I'm taking these hallucinogenic stuff. So it was a crazy, crazy experience. So from there, from about 13 to 15, I started actually getting into selling drugs. So now I'm rolling with my peoples, I'm rolling, we have a little gang, we have a little, whatever, and now we're selling drugs in our school, but at the same time, I'm still like not the cool kid. We're not the cool kids at all, we're just potheads, and we're getting high on our own supply, basically. And so we go through this whole, high school experience, but at the same time, God is still like tugging at my heart. I know God is real, but I really don't know how to get to him. And so I started stealing from my mom. I started to hustle. I mean, I was just, girls, all that kind of stuff. And it ended up where I got put into juvenile detention because I got caught with a whole bunch of weed. And they put me in juvenile detention. I got out. I just couldn't stop smoking. I was smoking, I was drinking, I was just whatever. So now I'm about like 17. They say, you know what, you got a problem, and so we're going to put you in what they call an inpatient program. Inpatient programs for drug addicts. And I'm like, I just smoke weed. I'm not like doing crack. I'm not doing heroin. But obviously I had a problem. So they put me in this inpatient program. Right before that, I met this guy. I was working for the DPW, Department of Public Works. And this guy was a Christian. And when I was on the truck with him, they put me the assignment to the truck with him. He would always tell me, young man, you got a call on your life. Young man, God has something amazing for you. And like he would tell me this every day, and I felt something behind it, but I really didn't know how to translate that into my own life and what I was doing. And so I remember I started getting these headaches, and I basically just quit the job, and then it ended up subsequently going to outpatient program. I get to the outpatient program. I'm there for about 2 days getting sober. The third day, I have this, I have this encounter with God, right, where I'm praying and I'm saying, God, I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be a rapper. I still rap a little bit. I wanted to, be a part, do all these things. And so here I am asking God, what do you have for me? And it was like now I know it's the audible voice of God is what I heard. But at that time, I was like freaked out because I heard the voice of God. And he said, I've called you to preach the gospel. I've called you to be a reverend. I've called you, into the nations. And so I'm like processing all this stuff. The next day, my mom comes to pick me up from the outpatient, or comes to visit me. Sure enough, she comes with this guy. I didn't know she's bringing this guy with her from the truck. Somehow he came. I don't know how they connected. He came, and you think I would run to my mom, but I ended up running to this guy and saying, God spoke to me that I'm gonna, gonna go to the nations. I'm gonna be a preacher, etc. But at the same time, like, I had an encounter with God, but I didn't fully have this experience of giving my life totally over to him. So I got out. I was excited. I started writing like positive rap but eventually I got, the Bible talks about those 7 spirits that come back even wickeder. So I ended up even worse, more strung out on drugs, more LSD. My mom kicked me out of the house. It's a whole story about how I was homeless for a little bit of time, and God provided places to stay, etc. But I was in a bad shape. So at the same time, I'm going to the city to buy drugs. I 2 days before that, I'm smoking weed with my friends. We're smoking marijuana, and then the Holy Spirit, now I know it's the Holy Spirit, like, came on me, and I started to prophesy. I started to speak what I felt like God was saying. And I said, I have brothers, I have sisters, and I know I'm going to find them. My whole life is about to change. And then boom, I come out of it, I'm still smoking, and my friend's like, yo, Malik, you are crazy. Like, you got total issues, right? Well, 2 days later, I go to New York City, get some drugs, come back to my high school. I come back to my high school, and this girl comes up to me, approaches me. No, my friend says, somebody's here to see you. It's this girl, pretty beautiful woman. And she comes up to me. I'm like, oh, my God. She said, are you Malik? And I said, yes. And she said, I want to tell you, I'm your sister. And I'm like, what? You're my sister? She's like, yeah, I'm your sister. And she had a little boy that looked just like me when I was young. And she was like, this is your nephew. And matter of fact, you have 3 younger brothers, and you actually have another sister, and obviously my brother who I was adopted with. And I was blown away. I knew I had a brother, but I didn't know I had this whole big family. So that day, I went with her. I met my mom, my biological mom, for the first time. I say this, the first woman I fell in love with first sight. She had just come out of chemotherapy. She had HIV. She had just had a breast removal, hard lifestyle. She lived a war. And so here I am now I'm in the hood. Now I'm living in this place that is even darker than where I came out of. And so I just started keep selling drugs. And the long story short is, even though I met my family having this great experience, I'm still in these cycles. I'm still in darkness. And it ends up where I get caught selling drugs to an undercover cop. My friend was being set up. And at that time, I was like, hey, I'll just sell drugs for you. You just go do what you got to do. I think with some girl or whatever. So he gives me the drugs and he's getting set up. So I get set